The main square of San Lucas del Valle was buzzing with excitement on the eve of the traditional horse race, a celebration that brought the small Mexican town to life for over 50 years. Traders, ranchers, and curious onlookers gathered around the competitors, each proudly showing off their magnificent animals, strong, sleek, and full of fire. Then came the loud, mocking laughter of Don Ramiro Valdez, owner of the largest ranch in the region. His voice cut through the air like a whip. "Now you can finally compete on equal footing. Sebastian," he shouted, clapping theatrically as he handed the reins to a young man standing beside a gray horse so thin and broken it looked more like a ghost than a living creature. The crowd erupted in laughter. Sebastian Mora, son of a washerwoman and grandson of a former state worker, felt his face burn with shame. The animal before him could barely stand, its coat dull, eyes lifeless. One of its hind legs dragged slightly with every painful step. "He was a great horse once," Don Ramiro continued. 15 years ago. Now he's just the right age for you, old and worn out, just like your family." The words cut deep. Sebastian swallowed the lump in his throat and stepped forward. As his hands touched the horse's neck, something unexpected happened. The animal lifted its head and looked directly into Sebastian's eyes, like it understood everything, like it saw a kindred soul. "Thank you, Don Ramiro," Sebastian said, his voice trembling but steady. "I'll take good care of him." "Take care of him?" Don Ramiro sneered. "That horse is just waiting to be dog food. Do nature a favor and speed up the process." More laughter followed, but Sebastian didn't flinch. He took the rope halter and began to walk away, leading the horse slowly through the crowd. With each step, he noticed the animal trying to hide its limp, as if pride still burned beneath the pain. From across the square, Lucia Valdez watched in silence. The rancher's daughter, a 20-year-old with chestnut hair tied in a simple ponytail, felt her stomach twist at her father's cruelty. She recognized that horse, not just as any animal, but as Flecha, her mother's beloved companion, who had passed away 5 years earlier, a champion who had won multiple regional races, and then simply vanished from the stables after Dona Clara's death. Sebastian arrived at the small plot behind his home, where he lived with his mother, Dona Marta. The 52-year-old woman rushed out, wiping her hands on a damp apron. "Good Lord, Sebastian, where did that animal come from?" "Don Ramiro gave him to me, Mama, for tomorrow's race." Marta studied the horse from head to hoof. Though she knew little about animals, she could see this poor creature wasn't fit to run, let alone compete. "Son, this isn't a gift. It's a humiliation." "I know, Mama," Sebastian said softly, stroking the horse's muzzle. "But look into his eyes. There's something in this animal that no one else sees." Marta sighed. She knew her son too well. He never gave up. From childhood, when he rescued injured birds or stood up for bullied kids, Sebastian had always believed in second chances. That night, he built a shelter from scrap wood and a tarp borrowed from neighbors. It wasn't much, but it kept the horse dry as the evening dew settled in. He'd spent his last 300 pesos on feed and a special grain mix from the back of the feed store, under the dim light of a single bulb. Sebastian examined the horse closely and noticed faint scars on its legs, small, deliberate marks in a familiar pattern. He called Don Fermin, a 73-year-old retired cowboy and horse whisperer. When the old man arrived and saw the markings, his eyes widened. "Son, do you know what horse this is?" "No, Don Fermin. Don Ramiro said he was old and useless." "Useless?" The old man chuckled, not in mockery, but in awe. "These marks, they're from special racing shoes. Only champions wore them. And this scar on his chest? I remember it. This horse, this is Flecha, Dona Clara's champion. He won every race around here. But after she passed, he disappeared." Sebastian's heart pounded. If true, Don Ramiro had lied. This wasn't just an old horse. It was a forgotten legend. But why is he like this? So weak, so broken? This isn't old age, son. This is abandonment, abuse. He was left with no care, no love, no food worth eating. But look here, his frame is still strong. And that limp, I'd bet it's more in his heart than in his leg. in his heart. Horses feel, Sebastian. When they lose someone they love, they shut down. It's common. They stop believing. That night, Sebastian couldn't sleep. He sat beside the horse in the makeshift shelter, whispering stories of his dreams, his struggles, his promise to give his mother a better life. "I know you miss her," he murmured, hand resting on the horse's neck. "But if Don Fermin is right, you still have so much to give. And I promise I'll take care of you." To his surprise, the horse responded, nudging his hand, tilting its head as if listening. Around 2 a.m., footsteps approached. Sebastian tensed, then saw Lucia, Don Ramiro's daughter, stepping into the shelter, clutching a small bag. "I brought medicine for his leg." "Why are you doing this?" "Because I know him. He's Fletcher, my mother's horse. She loved him more than anything. When she was sick, she'd spend hours in the stable just talking to him." She knelt beside the horse, and it lifted its head, recognizing her. "When she died, my father couldn't bear to look at him. Said it hurt too much. Told me he sold him to a man in another town. But today, I see the truth." Sebastian felt anger rise. What happened to him? "He gave him to a local man, Joaquin Herrera. Told him to take the horse. No payment. But Joaquin didn't want a racer. He used Fletcher to pull carts, plow fields for 3 years. A champion forced to work like a mule." Sebastian's fist clenched. "And how did he come back?" "Joaquin went bankrupt. My father bought him back for almost nothing, just so he wouldn't starve. But then he kept him locked away, barely fed, never cared for. And today he gave him to you as a joke." Sebastian stayed silent. The horse leaned into him, as if sharing the weight of the truth. Lucia looked up. "Can I ask you something personal?" "Of course." "Why are you helping me? Your father will be furious." She looked down. "Because I feel guilty. When my mother was dying, she made me promise to protect Fletcher. I promised, but when she passed, I was too broken to fight. I let my father do what he wanted. I was a coward. Now, I have a chance to keep my promise." That night, Sebastian applied the treatment Lucia taught him. The horse seemed stronger, more alert, more willing to eat. Don Fermin returned at 10 p.m., face serious. "Son, I need to tell you something. Your horse has a chronic tendon injury. It's not fatal, but if he pushes too hard, he could rupture it. He might never walk properly again." Sebastian's heart sank. "So he can't race?" "He can, but it's dangerous." Don Fermin paused. "There's an old healing method I learned from an indigenous healer in Guanajuato. Herbal poultices, mud compresses, special massage. It takes time, but it works." "Teach me." All night, Sebastian learned the ritual. Every 2 hours, apply the mixture. 20 minutes of massage. No breaks. The next day, Don Ramiro appeared at the shelter, smirking. "How's your champion doing, boy?" "He's doing fine, thank you." "I hear you're wasting money on medicine." "That's throwing good money after bad." "With all due respect, Don Ramiro, that's my business." The rancher stepped closer. "Don't forget, I own most of the houses on this street, including yours." It was a threat. Sebastian held his ground. "I'm not creating expectations. I'm just caring for the horse." "Caring?" Don Ramiro laughed. "This animal isn't worth the bullet it would take to end his suffering." The word stung, but Sebastian didn't react. Later, Lucia returned. "People are betting against you. Some offered 5,000 pesos if you would draw." 5,000 pesos. A fortune. Enough to pay rent for months. What should I do? Lucia looked at the horse. "Follow your heart. My mother always said, there's no shame in trying. The shame is in giving up before you start." That night, Sebastian asked his mother, "What would you do?" She stopped folding clothes. "Son, I raised you to be brave, not to run from fear. If you lose, lose with honor. If you win, win with pride. But if you quit, what kind of example does that set?" On race day, Sebastian applied the final treatment. To his amazement, Fletcher stood taller, moved with more strength. At the starting line, the other riders looked at him with pity. "Son, you can still back out." Don Ramiro approached, laughing. "Still playing your little game?" Before he could respond, Lucia stepped between them. "Papa, this is Fletcher. Mama S. horse. You didn't sell him. You gave him to Joaquin. You let him suffer for years." Don Ramiro froze. "I didn't want to remember the pain. But by destroying him, you destroyed part of her." Silence fell. The race began. The horses charged. To everyone's shock, Fletcher kept pace. Fourth at first, then falling back as the climb began. Sebastian felt his heart break. Then, at the peak near the church, Fletcher stopped. Sebastian thought it was over, but the horse lifted its head. Its ears twitched, as if hearing a voice from the past. And then he ran, not with desperation, with grace, with fire. Down the hill, he surged, passing third, then second, in the final stretch, neck and neck with the leader. "Come on, Fletcher," Sebastian whispered. "Your owner is watching." And in that moment, the horse found strength no one expected. He surged ahead, crossing the finish line 3 meters ahead. Silence. Then cheers, tears, disbelief. Sebastian dismounted, legs shaking. Fletcher panted, but his eyes, they shone. Lucia ran to them, weeping. "You did it. You did it." But Sebastian noticed. The horse was trembling, in pain. Don Fermin examined him. "He's hurt, but he'll heal. What matters is," he showed the world who he really is. Then Don Ramiro stepped forward. Slow, eyes wet. "Sebastian, I need to apologize." "Apologize? I wronged you. I wronged this horse. I wronged my wife's memory." Fletcher was her closest friend. When she was sick, he stood by her bed every day. When she died, I couldn't bear to see him, so I got rid of him. But today, I saw him run. I saw her loving him. And I realized I wasn't honoring her memory by forgetting. I was dishonoring it. He paused. "I want you to work at my ranch. Train horses. Care for Fletcher. But there's one condition." "What?" "Teach me how to care for him, too. Teach me how to honor her the right way." Tears flowed. Dona Marta arrived, weeping. "My son, I always knew you'd make it." Years passed. Sebastian moved the ranch. Marta stopped working. Lucia became his wife. They started a youth program. Fletcher, retired, became a mentor to young horses, a symbol of second chances. 2 years later, their daughter was born, Clara, named after Lucia's mother. 5 years later, with Don Ramiro's support, they founded the Fletcher Equine Rehabilitation Center, a sanctuary for abused horses. Fletcher lived to 28. On his last morning, Sebastian held his head. "Thank you, partner. Thank you for teaching me that a champion isn't defined by speed, but by heart." Under a tree planted where he rests, a bronze plaque reads, "Fletcher, the horse who taught an entire community the true meaning of a champion." And every time a child mounts a rescued horse, every time someone chooses to believe in the broken, the story lives on. Because sometimes the greatest victories aren't won on the track. They're won in the quiet moments, when one soul sees a light in another, even when the world has turned away. True greatness isn't in never falling. It's in rising every time the world knocks you down. And sometimes the greatest champion isn't the one who crosses the finish line first, but the one who never stopped believing he could.